Let's start working with the DOM. The first thing we want to do is when we are working with the DOM, that we want to select a particular element or select a particular node. And to do that, we have a simple API called document.querySelector. It takes the CSS selector style of string and it just goes to our document and selects whichever element we provided. So remember from our video on HTML and CSS course, we had something called CSS selectors. So if you wanted to style an element, we would simply provide a class. So let's say class name, so CNAME class name like this, and we would provide whatever styles we wanted. If it was an ID, we would do a hash sign and then put the ID name. If it was just an element, we would just provide the name of the element, right? And it had other options as well. So it's the same concept over here. When we want to select a particular element from the DOM, you would simply do document.querySelector and then provide a CSS selector over here. So let's say in our document over here, I have this simple HTML document with a header, with body. The body has 3 paragraphs and the header has a div. So let's say if I want to select the header, I would simply come over here and provide header because that's the name of the element. And that would select that particular element node for us. And now if I want to save that particular reference, I can just put it in a variable. So I can say const and header. I can call it anything. I can call it h. I can call it anything, but header is a good name. So I'm going to say const header and save that particular value. So now if I save and refresh, it should have saved it. But just to see if we got the right value, I can console.log header over here. So save and now refresh and it says null over here. And that's a bummer. We're using the right code. I'm telling you we have written the right code, but it's not printing the header element. What's going on here? And that brings me to one additional concept. When you are actually importing your app.js file, if you import it in the header, it goes, runs this code. It says, oh, I gotta import this. It goes to the app.js and starts running this code. And when it starts running this code, it says, okay, I gotta go to the document and then get an element with header. But if you notice, on line number 7, line number 8, 9, 10, 11, all the way till 20 has not run yet. That means that this particular header element is not available in the document object model yet, because this ran first before this was even created. So that's why to fix that, that's why we got null over here, because it didn't find it. To fix that, we would simply move the script.js from the header all the way to the bottom of our body element, like such. So I do that, save. Now, when I refresh, you see the header element has been selected. So this is the way to select elements, all right? Another way to do that, so let's say this particular API, the querySelector method, only selects one item, the first item that it found. So let's say if you had multiple header elements, I'm just going to make a copy of it, header, and just call it, let's say 2, like such. And now if I save and refresh, it still selects the first one. It doesn't care about the second one. It did not select that one. So this particular method only selects the first element it finds. But let's say if you want to select all of the elements which match this particular CSS selector, then you would use querySelectorAll method. So let's say in our example, a good example is we have multiple paragraphs. And let's say if you want to capture all the different elements with P, we can simply do that. I can simply come over here and call it all and provide the P element like such and just print it out over here. And this, I'm going to call it para and name this particular variable para as well. So now if I save, now I refresh, I got the header. And then over here, I got an array of all the paragraphs that I have. So the first one, the second one, and the third one. Now let's say if I say, hey, I only want the paragraphs which are highlighted with the class of highlighted, right? So this is highlight, this is highlight. So I can simply come over here and provide the CSS selector, which is dot highlight. Just like in CSS, nothing different here. And I can just call it high over here and print this one out like such. Save, refresh, and you see I got the header, I got the second, all of the paragraphs, and over here, the third one, I only got 2 paragraphs with the class of highlight. So this is the important API for you, which is the new way of querying the DOM. The old way actually would, which is still valid if you're working with an older project, they may be using this particular API. It's get element by tag name, so you only provide the tag name. Get elements by class name, so you provide the class name, or get element by ID. So play around with this as a homework, and I'm going to talk to you in the next video.